Welcome to Talking Giants player profiles and projections, and today we are looking at the Giants' first-round pick and the Giants' prize free agent / trade addition in Darren Waller. But we are starting with Darren Waller, who's 6'6", 250 pounds. He'll be 31 3 days after the season opener. Coming off of 2 years where he's missed some games. He's missed 14 out of the last 34 games after 2 full seasons for the Raiders. Was traded with a third-round comp pick that was brought over in the Kadarius Toney trade, as well as Trey Hawkins, the draft pick used on that. Justin, this guy's a star. The only question mark is how many games will he play?
Yeah.
Like, we'll go into it all. We'll talk about how he wins versus man and how he wins versus zone and how does he affect the offense. But it's just, this guy is a star player, and the only question is how many games does he play? That's the only question mark with Darren Waller. How many games does he play? He has not been slowed down by injuries one bit. He didn't show that last year. He hasn't shown that at the beginning of camp. And you can see how excited I am. I have like 25 pages of notes.
Yeah.
I have not been as excited to watch a player since Daniel Jones as a rookie.
Right. 2019 to 2020, he combined for 197 catches, almost 2.4K thousand yards. 12 touchdowns during the 2019 to 2020 seasons. He trailed only future Hall of Famer Travis Kelce among tight ends in catches and yards during that stretch, while ranking 4th at the position for touchdowns. But forget that. That was a long time ago. 2019, 2020 was a long time ago. 2021, 2022, Waller has been a hurt player. But even at that point, Bobby, let's just say Darren Waller hurt this year for a portion of the Giants plays 10 to 12 games. It's still a massive upgrade to this Giants team. Because really, the biggest downside to this Darren Waller acquisition is that he isn't healthy and he doesn't produce. But even if he produces at the same rate at which he did in 2021 and 2022, it is still the best weapon that we have had in the passing game since Odell Beckham Jr.
Well, also, like, he's missed 14 of the last 34 games. It's not like this guy has been just like out, right? Like, he's had some injuries, but I don't. It's not like I don't view him as the same way as I view like even Azeez Ojulari, where it's like, man, you got this, and like, and obviously not, former Giant Kadarius Toney, who was traded for essentially. But last year he had 28 catches, 388 yards. That would have been third on the Giants in 2022. The year before, that was in 9 games. In 2021, in 11 games, he had 665 yards on 55 catches. That would be second on the Giants last season. And then, like you mentioned, the 1,200-yard seasons the 2 years before, only after Kelce. But if the injuries are just, is he on the field? They haven't slowed him down one bit. And also, when we talked about this when he was actually traded, why it's even like it'll be depressing if he's missing games. But it was also a very low risk move for the New York Giants. You traded a third-round comp pick, and his contract at the time had no dead cap when the Giants traded for him.
Now it does. They restructured a little bit.
Yeah, so like if they cut, so he's signed through 2026. If they cut him and next offseason, it'd be $7.5 million with dead cap, and then $2.5 million the last season, or it'd be $7 million this next season, $5 million this season after that, and then $2.5 million the last season with $14.5 million, $15.5 million, and then $17.5 million cap hits. The last 3 seasons. But so there's not much risk. Even if the guy had a career-ending injury next year, they would still save over $7 million in cap space by cutting him.
The biggest risk is, Darren Waller's not on the field for us.
That is the risk.
It's the biggest risk.
Like the guy that is going to almost transform the offense won't be on the field. But he's just bigger and faster than everyone else. Like last year in 9 games, I know you probably have this stat. Sorry to steal it from you.
Oh no, you're going to take? Can I say it?
Say it.
Darren Waller, 20-plus yard catches by year. 2021, he had 13 in 11 games. 2022, he had 9 in 9 games. 2020, 16, 2019, 14 when he played the majority of games. Darius Slayton had 12 20-plus yard catches. Is this where you were going?
Well, even just 20-plus air yards.
Okay. Well, let me finish this. Darius Slayton had 12 20-plus yard catches last year. No other Giants player had more than 3 receiving plays of 20-plus yards. And even in 9 games in 2022, Darren Waller had 9, and that would have been second on the team, which is outrageous. But you're talking about 20-plus air yards. Tell me about that.
Who led the NFL last year for tight ends in 20-plus air yards?
If I had to guess, since Darren Waller was mostly an out-wide receiver, it would be Darren Waller.
Darren Waller. Darren Waller.
And that's just air yard. It's not air yards per attempt. That's just total air yards, right?
Just catches of that, or the ball travels more than 20 yards.
So that's a volume stat, and the fact that it was in 9 games is pretty impressive.
Yeah, he led the NFL in those.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about him as a player. He wins, like, he is bigger and faster than everybody, but that's not just what he is. Like, he plays a very, very smart game, and it really comes down to the release. Like, he wins at the release. Whether it's someone trying to press him up, he has strong hands to throw those guys to the side, but his route tempo is elite. Like, just go, if you want to go check out the film breakdown I did on him, I just went through the release on a bunch, and it's just like, man, this guy is just smarter. He knows, like, he's just 2 steps ahead of DBs or linebackers, whoever they play on him, and he's just able to consistently stack them. And you look at him on man coverage, when he's going up against guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick, James Bradbury, Derwin James, Fred Warner, and he consistently dusted these dudes in man coverage. Dusted them. And that's in man coverage versus the players who are supposed to be the best at covering Darren Waller, which is like, if you had a guy who can cover Darren Waller, these are the guys, and they cannot cover Darren Waller. And that's why he is so productive in the games that he plays. And that's why, like you mentioned, the 2 years he played full games, in the last 4 years, he was second only behind Travis Kelce, who was arguably a top 3 tight end of all time.
He's a Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Yeah, like, not even thinking about it, a Hall of Famer. So he's just able to win those, and he can go up the ladder and adjust to the ball with high pointing it, adjusting to bad passes, and then versus zone, like, he works leverage really well. Whether it's the quick game or downfield, he's able to manipulate defenders and get their hips going one way or get them going one way and then go the other. And then versus your base zone defenses, he's just able to, like, go and outrun guys and find holes in it, and he's a big target. He is legitimately an offense changing player. He's and we got heat when we said this. If you ask me going into the season, for the guys they're going to play games, who would you like on this team, Darren Waller or Saquon Barkley? I'm taking Darren Waller 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, and a lot of people would disagree with that, but I mean,
I'm not. To me, it's not. I am adamant.
Yeah,
I don't think it's even close.
Well, and if you
ask me which player did we have to miss this season, it would be Saquon Barkley.
Right, and that just comes down to throwing the ball, and having a passing game that is explosive is, more valuable than a running back that can get 4.5, 5 yards per pop.
I also think Darren Waller is better at his position than Saquon Barkley is. And I know this isn't a Saquon Barkley, but it's not to put down Saquon. Obviously, Saquon's a star.
Yeah, it's to elevate Darren Waller at his best.
It's to show you what I think of Darren Waller.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it's just play games. Like, that's really all it comes down to with Darren Waller. Play games, and he is going to be sick. He's going to be so huge. We already see the connection with Daniel Jones in a week of camp. Like, they're going to be creative with him. We could talk about that in the projections, because we don't need to project stats with him. We could just project how he's going to be used. Like, this coaching staff, Daniel Jones' accuracy, I think it legit could get the best out of him that we haven't even seen yet with Darren Waller.
Yeah, maybe. And we know that he wasn't fully happy with his role with McDaniels. Like, they were putting him out wide, which is why I'm curious to see how often he's been lined up out wide in camp. But we'll talk about that. But you were talking about him at the release. I've been coming to training camp since 2017. I've been a Giants fan for a long time. I haven't been a Giants fan since like the 80s or the 90s. I'm not old enough for that. But Darren Waller is unlike anybody that I've seen, I'll say, since Odell Beckham Jr. as a weapon and as a receiver. Like, I didn't see Cruz in camp. I would have loved to see Cruz in camp and Cruz at the release, and I guarantee that would be another one that he would just win. He would win the play right away. But even so, that was so short-lived. Darren Waller at the release, especially for how big he is like nothing that I have seen as a Giants fan, and it is a tremendous difference maker. Like, we were talking about the explosive plays, and those are going to be there. But what we've seen so far in camp, and what I am excited for, is just Darren Waller's ability to be a quote unquote security blanket for Jones, where he can snap the ball and then that average time to throw of 2.5 to 2.7 seconds, Darren Waller is going to be open, and there is no waiting for routes to develop. We'll have those long developing plays, and Waller can be open on that. And there's even Waller had 50 receptions on crossing routes since 2019, the third most among tight ends. Daniel Jones targeted crossers at the third highest rate in the NFL last year. So those explosive plays are going to be there, but also the quick developing plays and the short area quickness that Waller has. It's a total complete package of what we got.
He's unguardable. He is elite at every level of the field. And like you said, if you're going to put focus and double team, well, guess what? That's going to make other guys open. Mm-hmm. If you're going to man up versus the best safeties and linebackers manning up tight ends, he's going to defeat them.
Yeah.
You can throw the ball to him 30 yards down the field and not have it be accurate, and he will go and make a play.
And Jones has shown this camp. And Jones has shown this camp, and this has been a critique of Jones in the past. It's like, dude, I feel like maybe we got some guys that you can throw the ball to them and maybe they can go up and make a play. Guys don't have to always be totally wide open for you to throw the ball. And we've seen it with Waller this summer. Jones says, I'm gonna see if you can go and get this. I'm gonna put this ball in a place that maybe most of my receivers in the past wouldn't get. But can you go up and get it because you're so big and you're so freaky athletic? And most of the time this camp, the answer has been yes. And I love that Jones is experimenting like that, because that is what, like those jaw-dropping plays, like that is what can make, a game, that's what can go like, a third down stop and you can punt the ball, or you can get an explosive play. It can be a touchdown, or in a drive can continue and sustain itself.
Let's talk about how, and here, let's say he's a bad blocker.
Okay, yeah.
Like, he is a bad blocker. And it looked like this past year there wasn't, and this is questions of, like, with McDaniels. Years before, it's like he at least showed effort. He didn't show the same effort this past year with the Raiders. Hopefully that effort is renewed with not being with Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, maybe a little disgruntled, yeah.
Josh McDaniels is maybe my most hated NFL coach of all time. But I also think Josh McDaniels just misused him, where Josh McDaniels had him in the slot 72% of the time last season. If you look at his career before that, the 3 seasons before, he lined up in line between 59 and 65% every year.
Yeah.
Line him up in line. That is where he's going to be able to make the most of his mismatch. Obviously, you're going to line him up in the slot. Like, that's going to happen. But in line is where I think he can do the most damage. You just get more mismatches out there. And that's what I want to see with him. But I think this coaching staff is going to be very creative with him. I think they're going to do, like, not full-on trick plays, but, like, plays that have some disguise of what they're trying to do. And in play action, I think it's going to be deadly. Like, we know this coaching staff likes to use play action a ton, especially last year because of some of the deficiencies they had. But even, like, I hate to reference camp in these PPPs, but they lined up in 13 personnel with him, and they had all the tight ends on one side, and you're thinking, like, okay, even if they throw this ball, it's not going to be explosive. Nope, he catches a ball like 18 to 20 yards down the field out of that stuff. So I think we saw how creative the Giants coaching staff could be last year, and that was without an elite receiving weapon. Now we have an elite receiving weapon, and I think they're going to be really creative in getting him the ball.
So you would predict that he is going to have more snaps as an inline tight end than as a slot / outside wide receiver this year?
I hope so.
I think it's going to be close, but I
think it'll be closer than the 59 to 65% in line.
Yeah.
But I want it to be over 50% at least.
I think he's going to line out wide more than in line.
That will be something I'm monitoring throughout the season.
Yeah.
Not like when we go back and do a tight end review. Like,
No.
That's something I want to monitor
week to week
in season. Yeah, week to week on seeing where he's lining up.
And I wonder if that's like a mid-season adjustment that they make.
Well, even if they do, it's like hopefully at least they do it better than Josh McDaniels. I hate Josh McDaniels. Yeah. But he seems refreshed. He seems happy, man. And I think him being with Daniel Jones, I think it's going to be really, really nice to see. I mean, we've never seen Daniel Jones get to throw to somebody like that before.
Can I make a prediction?
Go for it.
Darren Waller is going to win the Good Guy Award this year.
Ooh, he will win the good. That's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
That's going to happen.
If he's healthy and he plays and he's available to the media, then he's going to win the Good Guy Award this year.
He will win. All right, so remember this when they vote on that.
The odds are out. I'm putting $1,000 on
Justin, why don't you talk to us about Manscaped?
Manscaped, that's right. They're sponsoring the PPPs. They're sponsoring camp streams, and I can't thank Manscaped enough. because they have the Platinum Package 4.0, and they want to take care of you, every single part of you, from the Nina, the Pin, to the Santa Maria. You know that song, Step Brothers? You want to finish?
Yeah, we know it.
Yeah, you know it. It's the Platinum Package 4.0. It's the one-stop shop for the man who deserves it all. They designed this package to allow you
Is it sad that when you think of Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria, you think of Step Brothers and not
the historical boats?
I probably do too now, but at least I started on the historical boats.
Nope, I started right away with Step Brothers. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, we know about that. The Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. I am a stan for the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, and the Ultra Premium Body Wash 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner plus deodorant, and they have so much more. I want you to get 20% off and free shipping with the code GIANTS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use code GIANTS. Use the Platinum Package because the Gold Standard, it's no longer good enough. Get out of here, Gold Standard. I like Platinum.
Platinum.
Peas. PPPs.
You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did.
Trim your PP. All right. Deonte Banks, cornerback out of Maryland. The Giants' first round pick was picked 24th overall. They traded up one spot. They traded the 25th pick as well as a 5th and a 7th round pick. And Justin, at 6 foot, 197 pounds, he had an elite combine testing with a 4.35 40, a 42-inch vertical jump. Like, he is a great athlete who does move around the field effortlessly in both man and zone coverage. And he has, you don't see it with a lot of corners, he has a lot of press man experience in college, and he has the athletic profile to pull it off. So you see the fit with Wink Martindale. And I remember I even tweeted about it in March before the draft. It's like, man, he's got some flaws, but I can definitely see Wink Martindale wanting to get his hands on Deonte Banks. And
he did.
And we saw that. And we saw how excited he was when they drafted him.
We saw how big Wink's forearms were.
Yeah, so it's...
That was my note.
Yeah, that's true. So after, he missed his sophomore season, and then, or he missed his second year in college after starting as a freshman and then came back last year. Only gave up 43% of the passes targeted. Did give up 4 touchdowns and had 1 interception, but 8 pass breakups. Overall, 4.3 yards per attempt when targeted. Justin, we'll talk about the scouting report, and this will be a lot like the draft recap, and we've seen some of that stuff come to fruition in the beginning of camp. But I fully expect rookie struggles for Deonte Banks. And for Deonte Banks, this season, the Giants do want to win games, so I do want to see him be at least close to good by the end of the season.
He's a first-round pick,
Yeah, there's big expectations on him. We should see growth by the end of the season, but I'm not expecting that in the beginning of the season. But I do want to see some linear growth throughout the season. But I expect the Giants to give him help. But also, hey, they're gonna be put in situations where he's gonna need to be trusted, and hopefully, I don't want to see at any point of the year where he's just flat out picked on and he is like a meme for how bad he is.
Yeah,
but there will be struggles.
Deonte Banks is now the first pick that we're gonna have as Giants fans, where it's like, yeah, this is where we should be picking from now on. No longer the top 10 players that. Or you feel like they virtually should be just slam dunk players, but the Deonte Banks pick and Deonte Banks as a player is like, well, this is really the big test for Joe Schoen to be like, well, if we're going to be picking in the back end of the first round from now on, like we want to, can we pull out some good players? And corner's a risky player. I think banking on. This is just me personally. I'm a fan. I'm a Giants fan. I'm a fan of football, and the Giants are my favorite team. Anytime that we pick a corner in the draft and we're going to be investing in them and we're going to be trusting them to take a big leap, or especially if we draft them early on, like in the first and second round, I get nervous, man, because it's a really, really difficult position to transition to, and especially since Deonte Banks was, touted as maybe this late first, maybe early second round grade. Like, what grade did you have on him?
A high second.
A high second round.
Which in this past draft turns into a late first.
So we're, a guy with that kind of grade on it, on him, we're going to be trusting basically in year one to be a starter. That makes me nervous, but I like the athleticism. I'm trusting the athleticism, and I'm also trusting Jerome Henderson to get this guy right, because Jerome Henderson has gotten a lot of guys that have had worse athleticism and probably a worse profile than Deonte Banks, and they've been fine.
Yeah, and we do, you see great corners, you look back at it and like let's just go look at the Giants' best 2 corners recently, James Bradbury and Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson did struggle as a rookie. I don't know how much, but like James Bradbury as a rookie was maybe one of the worst corners in the league that year. Like he was picked on, but obviously he was a late second round pick compared to a late first. But let's talk about him. He is a great athlete, like I said, who moves effortlessly around the field, and he has reps of press man coverage where it's like, this is sick. And not a lot of, like, even against Marvin Harrison Jr., who
it was a cool game.
Like, you go watch, like, and go, just search, Deonte Banks, Marvin Harrison Jr. There's reps where he is pressing, he is
bullying him.
He is getting in Marvin Harrison Jr.'s chest. So he has all that ability to be that strength, play with that demeanor, and the speed to stick with guys. And I think he's never going to be an interception guy, but he's good at breaking the pass up guy. Yeah. He's kind of good there.
Which that seems like a theme in Wink Martindale's defense. Low interceptions for the corners, but you still need to make a play on the football.
Yeah. So he fits what this Wink Martindale defense wants. And, to quote the late great Dave Gettleman, you can never have enough press corners. Like it's the tight, like, corner. You can talk about this system. Press corners fit in every single system. Mm-hmm. Whether you're playing a base zone, like, you can put a press corner in that system. Like, he's got great change of direction speed and break on the ball. Like, he's coming out of his back pedal. It's effortless, and he explodes out of it, which I think he's going to be better at zone to start in the NFL. But where I do worry about Banks is, as much as you see the highlights at the start of reps and press, I think he loses the release way too often and is often playing from behind. And you can get away from that in college. You can't get away from that in the NFL. You have to be much more consistent. You can't just have highlights at the line of scrimmage. You have to be consistently good at the line of scrimmage if that's the way you're going to play in the NFL, and you're not going to play in like an off-man coverage type system. You have to be consistent, because you can be great 75% of the time, but if you're really struggling 25%, you're giving up 80 yards a game. So that's where he needs to get better to me. I think if he gets better there, I think all of the other issues will improve. But it all starts at the release. And we've seen it at camp where it's like he just loses the release and he's 5 yards behind.
Yeah.
Or he's overextending and guys sit on a route and he's continuing the running. But I think it all starts with the release and some overthinking and man coverage. And
tell me why in zone, like, losing the release isn't as demanding if you're in man.
For the most part, you're starting in a back pedal.
Yeah.
And he's got all the he explodes out of the back pedal. Like, he's got good instincts out of that. But you're not – the release isn't as important. And that's where he just looks more comfortable there. Like, obviously he's drafted to be a man coverage, but he looks more comfortable playing in those zone coverages, like kind of reading and reacting instead of like let's just go one-on-one. But once he's connected, if he does win doesn't lose the release, he does stay in the hip pocket of receivers and obviously has the athleticism and ability to like make plays.
So do you think if they ask him to not jam as much or to not be as physical, where simply he's just focusing on his footwork and he's getting kind of out of his like 2-point stance, do you think that can make his job easier year one? Or is it a little bit more complicated with that where Banks
his footwork is iffy right now. Like, it's hit or miss. So it's not just when he's pressing guys up. It's just he loses the release with bad footwork at the start. But like you said, when you're in zone, you're starting out of a back pedal. Mm-hmm. But like if he's just playing press and not jamming guys, there's still a lot of issues there. But eventually he's got to get better at that because that's what he was drafted to be. That's what his athletic profile says.
Yeah, if receivers are running like clean streaks without any kind of like nuance to their game, I'm not concerned with Banks kind of like allowing just like a big 40, 50-yard bomb down the field because he's going to keep up. But I think it's when receivers kind of add the fancy little nuances to route running that maybe they'll struggle, especially at the start and especially at the release. So that's where you see the speed and the change of direction. I was not maybe the change of direction, but that's where you see the speed really come in, is he can keep up with guys running down the field. And also another area that I know the Grump talked a lot about this, and I saw this too at certain times. you can send him in on blitzes, and I know this is going to be a very low percentage of the time, but Wink Martindale likes to do this. You can send him in on some blitzes, and it's going to be fun. And he doesn't need like a running start either, where a lot of times you'll have corners kind of like show and fake, like they're in like that running stance, like, okay, I'm going to come and blitz, and I'm not going to drop back. He can be kind of like in that 2-point stance where he is square towards the line of scrimmage and square towards his receiver, but then he can break just as effectively if another corner is lined up in that sprinter stance like he's going to blitz. So I'm excited to see what Wink Martindale can do and how maybe they can get creative with Banks.
Yeah. Last thing, he was very grabby in college and got a lot of penalties. So like he would get beat on the release, like we said, and then he would just like tackle guys. So that's something that needs to be cleaned up. All right, anything else on Deonte Banks?
No, I kind of have here, Banks is a guy who I have hope for, that he has a confidence and a swagger to him.
And I think he does.
Yeah.
It's like, so that's like, just don't lose your confidence and put in the work.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a good player.
Yeah.
And
like, I hope year one, if there is going to be some sort of struggles, I hope it's not enough of a struggle where he's looking himself in the mirror and being like, damn, can I really do this? Which, hey, we've seen corners in the past. Like, I thought Jeff Okudah was going to be the cleanest prospect out there, and now he's on his second team, and he's it's not looking too good. That second contract to be in that top end of the first round draft pick, that second contract is not going to be pretty, and it's not going to match what he got.
Get a 1-year minimum deal.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. So I hope that Deonte Banks has that confidence and swagger to him, and I trust that Joe Schoen and this staff, like they value the character of a guy, and I know that Banks is going to have it, and he's going to battle through whatever struggles he's going to have.
All right, that's a PPP. We will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, let's go Big Blue.